We're in Sterling Heights, Michigan, replacing a sump pump discharge line. This is the area of clean out. It ran to the back, and what happened is the back is where it's the lowest. The water in the winter time froze, and then the water laid in the pipe, which split the pipe, damaged the pipe. So what we do in a case like this, it comes out of the house right there, but it didn't run straight out. So the guys called me and I came out with the wire tracker. So I'm pretty happy with the wire tracker that we're using. It was recommended by a friend, another contractor. So we got a Greenlee 521A, and you could buy that at Ewing Irrigation. Okay, so we ran a fish tape down into the PVC, and I'll show you how this works. All right, so you'll hear a tone, and when it goes to 0, you're right above it. I got the alligator clip on the fish tape, and then you got to ground it. All right, it dropped to 0. That's where. So when you hear the noise, I'm off of it. When you go to 0 and the tone stops, that's called the null, and then you know you're on it. So I just keep waving it. When it drops to 0, I know I'm right over it. So this one is running towards the pool, which tells us that this line was here before the pool was, and then the pool guys, just out of convenience, grabbed it wherever they cut it. Remember, when the tone stops, I'm right above it. See, the guys were close because they were going straight off the house. Yeah, it's going to be right in here somewhere. All right, we found a dry well that's on life support. So we took the wire tracker and we're about 3 feet off the dry well. And there's a bunch of abandoned pipes here. There's been a lot of shoemakers in this backyard, so we just drilled a hole in it and ran the sump pump, and the water's coming through this pipe, so we know we're on the right pipe. Okay, so we set the crock. So we have the sump line going to the crock. Figured I'd show you this while I could before we close it up. You guys are gonna plumb it and close it up, but here's the crock. Got a solid cement floor in this one, and that's because they're actually going to clean this out every time they have their septic tank cleaned out. They're going to have this cleaned out because of the rust oxide, or red algae as it's called. This stuff is nasty and it's going to build up in here. So this is going to be a great place for all the minerals and garbage to filter out. And then we're going to dig a really deep trench here, and the water is going to run through these 1/2-inch holes that we drilled. We have it wrapped with our filter fabric. We don't want any of that red algae, rust oxide, whatever you want to refer to it as. When there's a couple bacterias, when they meet and get together, they form this red algae. It's like a slime. It clogs the pipes. The cement bottom, you know, we make those in our shop. We bring this here in pieces. This is 30-inch, by the way, too. It's a big one. So all right, so I'm back. The guys got the leach field done. You could see by their handiwork, they cut the sod off. They did their excavation. It was a pretty deep dig here, a lot of stone. So we got a really good leach field here, and the sump line is going to run. They're putting that together right now. Sump line is going to run to this big crock, this 30-inch crock. And it's going to be great for clean out. It's going to be great for the customer just to drop in and run his snake through and clean it, because they have to do it regularly. The red slime is so bad here, the red algae, rust oxide, whatever you want to call it. It's nasty. So we got our plywood down, and our dirt's on the plywood like always. And as soon as we get it covered up, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so the crew cleaned up, packed up, headed to the next job. They're dropping off the equipment. You can see that we left the sump pump line a little high. The dirt settles when you dig the sump lines. It's not like stone. The stone is 99% compacted, so you don't get any settling, you know, that causes that saddling. But anytime you do a sump line, you want to just leave it just a little humped up, so that when it settles, it's level. Because if we just took and leveled this off right now, this homeowner would call me in a few weeks, because he would have this dip that's known as saddling. And on the opposite side, we have the leach field, which is all stone. So this is nice and level. So the guys did a really good job. This leach field runs to the low point of the yard. They never use that, and that was this ideal. So we got a lot of elevation. Water runs downhill, and meanwhile you're losing the water in the subsoil. This is where we track that from, just kind of going over what we've done. So sump pump comes out right there, goes under the cement patio. The wire tracker, without it, this would have been just a pain, and it would have been a nightmare. But located that, went ahead and hooked up a 4-inch pipe. They had a 3-inch, so we just did a reducer from 3 to 4, because I really can't do anything about that. They got 3-inch running underneath that patio. So, but you can see how clean everything is. They literally took all the dirt off the plywood, packed it, drove on it, put the sod in place, picked up the plywood, went ahead and raked and cleaned up the yard. This is every job we do. We repaired the sprinkler system. This is how we leave every one of our jobs. We respect the homeowner's property, and you can hardly tell we were here. If you're looking for this service in North Oakland County or North Macomb County, give us a call. if you liked this video and you'd like me to make more like it, give us a thumbs up, because I really do base everything on that. When we get a lot of likes for something, then I dig deeper and I'll go further with that. And the stuff that you guys aren't crazy about, I can tell you're not liking it so much. I received a phone call from a client. They had their lawn aerated, and the aerator caught the low voltage line for the LED lights in the back, so they lost all their back lights. And the company that aerated could not find the break, so they asked me to come out and locate it. I have the 521A Greenlee. I love this wire tracker. So turn it on and go to battery test. You want it to be above 8. Next is the intensity level. And you want the intensity level to be between 4 and 8. There we go. See, now that's too much. I went ahead and I took that run that went to the back and I disconnected it. You clip the red to whatever it is you're tracking, and then go ahead and ground. Now, the receiver also has an intensity level. So this won't need just a very low setting, because that wire is just a few inches deep. Okay, so when you're above the landscape lighting wire, and it doesn't matter what you're tracking, it could be sprinkler valve wire, it could be, you've seen us probably put a fish tape in a PVC pipe and track it. So when you get off the wire, it gets loud and it jumps. When it drops to 0, you're right over it. So to track it, I just wave it. I wave the receiver back and forth. As long as it bounces to 0, I know that I haven't lost the wire and I'm still on the wire. If I lost the wire, I would back up and I'd go in a different direction. We're right above it. This was a really long run, so I did not want to pull this all up. The crew's busy and I don't want to pull guys if I can just make a repair like this real quick. So I track this wire to right here. And again, when you're on the wire, it drops right to 0. I dug the wire up right at the edging, and as I was pulling it up, about 15 feet in, I found the break. So the aerator caught the low voltage line. Now I'll just get some wire strippers and some grease nuts, make the repair, and then tuck this back under the sod and restore the landscape lighting for this homeowner. That's how you use a wire tracker out in the field. Sorry about the audio out there. It's extremely windy. I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to add that if that wire would have been completely severed, the receiver would have stopped tracking it. At that point, if I changed directions a couple of times and I just couldn't pick that wire back up, then I'd know it was completely severed and I was at the end where it was broke. It wasn't severed. It's a 212 low voltage line, so it caught one of the 12 gauge wires and the other one was still intact. So it tracked all the way to the bark bed. At that time, I knew that we had a wire that wasn't completely severed, but it was damaged enough to where the low voltage lights wouldn't work in the back. So I started pulling it up from the bark bed because it was extremely close to the house on the other side, So it was more likely that it got caught in the backyard. And it paid off because it was only 15 feet from the bed, and it was a lot less wire to have to tuck under the sod. I will tell you this, if you do pull a wire out that's severed and you don't track it, you just grab it and you're pulling up on it and you're pulling up on it, and it starts to basically, instead of tear the sod and just come out, it's sliding out like that, you're going to be standing there with an end of a wire going, where does this go? And you're never going to find that other end. It really is that hard sometimes. So, you know, keep that in mind. But that is a great tool. It's a time saver, huge time saver. And it's also, if you're a contractor, it's another avenue to make some revenue. That wire tracker, I believe I paid $650 at the time. God knows what it costs now. Maybe it's half that. Who knows? I've had it for a while. I like it a lot, and I'd recommend it. Yes, in a case like that, there's a charge for that, a service charge to go out, track that wire, and do the repair. The company that was aerating did not have the equipment to do it, so the homeowner had to reach out to us. We installed that a few years ago. Stick around. We're going to have a lot of fun this year. We got a lot of stuff planned for you guys. We'll show you some more tricks, and we'll see you in the next video.